Hi everyone, it's Thursday night, 9 o'clock. It's time for the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. Well, the World Cup is over. In fact, all Southern Hemisphere rugby is over, but we still have Northern Hemisphere to talk to. And for those who watched last week's show, well, you had to have made a profit because the conductor, Brendon Wessels, was absolutely on fire with his picks. Best bet arriving nicely. And we just missed a 15-1 newsletter accumulator as well. So we'll see if we can carry some of that form forward. Good to see quite a bit of the rugby is televised. So I know a lot of the guys stream the rugby as well. We'll get that opinion. We're also going to have the return of Oracle Rugby tonight. He's coming to talk about a system. A guy called the Betting Stig on the Good for the Game forum has got a system that he's busy running on these Northern Hemisphere games. And we'll get a bit more insight from the Oracle on that one. In fact, I'm going to bring the guys into studio now. And let's start off with introducing the conductor, Brendon Wessels. Brendon, good to have you back on the show. What a cracking weekend. We were talking just before the show. I mean, you cleaned up on Friday and Saturday, that you actually just took Sunday off and lazed around in the pool, enjoying the win. Yeah,
Brent, what a good weekend. It was so nice to, and I was actually quite sort of hesitant, before the weekend, but when the sort of Munster bet came up and Clermont bet came up, it was an absolute gift. But I was actually thinking about it this morning. What was so good to kick off the weekend was that Toulouse win. I didn't go huge, but I did go on a big bet. But to win on Toulouse on Friday night gave such good momentum going into the weekend. And Munster came through, Clermont came through, and that meant gin by the pool on Sunday and no betting and nothing to lose on Sunday afternoon. But absolutely great weekend. I'm glad that that came through, and hopefully this is not going to be as easy weekend. I've got a bit of a bad feeling about this weekend, but I think it's going to be a more of a tougher. There's some more tougher fixtures up, but let's see what we can do.
Excellent. Well, let's introduce Oracle Rugby now. Oracle's had a couple of weeks off. I know he's been celebrating still the Pollard arrival there in the points market, and. Oracle, good to hear back from you. Looking forward to some insights on the show tonight, and you're going to share a few insights into a guy called the Betting Stig. He's just opened an account on the Good for the Game forum, and he's sharing some of his views. But you're not really as worried about sharing his picks this week as you are about talking about some of the logic behind it.
Absolutely, Brent. But I've got to say one thing quickly. Hello to the viewers. Hello to Brent, obviously, and to the conductor. Conductor, I'm very concerned that you're drinking gin. I got to tell you, I was a barman. As much as I've been in bookmaking for 20 years, I was a barman for probably the 20 years before that. I'm very concerned that you're suggesting you're drinking gin. Gin's a chick's drink, bro. It's pink, and you should stay away from it. Stick to the beer that you got at the moment. Stay away from the gin. Gin's a depressor. It's for girls. It's not for boys. Right. Yes. So. The guy wants to keep himself a bit anonymous. I'm all for that. I have been a part of this journey, the Betting Stig journey. I got to say, I'm probably I'm certainly less than a quarter insight into this. I've provided a little bit of maths and some of my knowledge that I've created over the years. But I'm all for that, and then one day we'll reveal him. But I do like the system. Ever since I read the book Smart Money, written by a poker player called Michael Connick, they came up with a system that mathematical and algorithms and all that sort of thing, and they did very well with American football. So there's no reason why, if you know what you're doing with rugby, you can come up with some sort of a system, especially on leagues. That you don't want to put too much human emotion into it. So I can see you putting it on the screen now. I'm going to call out a couple of the plays that we feel are the best from a human perspective, looking at what this system has picked out. And so for me personally, I haven't got much involved in European rugby. The little bit I did get involved in, I saw my ass, lost my money, and turned it up very quickly before it became quite expensive. So I'm going to give it a go. And I'm going to follow this as much as I'm going to call it out. And, we'll see how we go.
Excellent. So just to point out, I'm not going to keep it on the screen all the time, but what I put out there is the Betting Sticks post. That's on the Good for the Game forum. If you are looking to go to the Good for the Game forum, go down below the video on YouTube, and you will find a button to subscribe to the forum or to go to the rugby thread, in fact, and you can go and have a look at all the picks there. So, Gavin, I think the way we'll work at them is I'll get Brendon started on each match. He'll give his comment, and then we'll come to you. If you've got no comment on the game, fine. But if you've got something that the system has perhaps thrown up that we want to take note of, then we can have a chat about that. So I'll take that away from the screen for now. And let's move on to the first game and start off with the Conductor there. It's Friday night, and it's a game that I think has seen a bit of betting movement this week. It's Ulster Rugby against Clermont, and I have noticed that Clermont have been shortening a bit during the week. I've seen sort of 7-10 at WSP, just under 7-10 at Sunbet there, and the handicap plus 1.5 Ulster at Sunbet and plus 2.5 at WSP. And I'm very interested to see what the Conductor thinks of this one, because I know last week you were big on Clermont and they delivered for you.
Yeah, Brent. I saw it has been a bit of movements. So I saw it was minus 2.5, and it's gone to minus 1.5, and I think it's gone back to minus 2.5. Also missing a couple of frontline players. I'm missing Sam Carter, Jack McGrath, who's an integral part of their scrum, Orange International. They're missing Rob Little. I think it's one of their centres. I'm missing one of the other guys. It's not the strongest Clermont team that would have liked to have seen. They're not playing Lopez and not playing Para. They're playing Greg Laidlaw, which I think is due to the conditions in Ireland, that would suit Greg Laidlaw's game, but more of a box kicking sort of slow style. But I'm once again on Clermont here. I've taken a bit of minus 1.5. Look, like I said to you, Brent, and I'll put a sort of blanket statement for this weekend. It's not going to be a clean-up weekend. It is going to be keep your head on a swivel. I like minus 1.5 Clermont, but I wouldn't be surprised for Ulster winning. But I think minus 1.5 to me is value. I love that backline. Still, McIntyre is very clever with his little dinks and kicks over. George Moala and Tuyava is probably the best center combination in the top 14 for me. They just absolute power. Rock is good. Beetham is okay. And I like that. I like the Clermont pack. It's very seasoned. They're big, tough guys. They know what they're doing. I like Yato he's playing 6 from Fiji, and Fritz Lee playing at 8. Not a terrible Ulster pack with Marcel Coetzee and Sean. I think it's Reedy, but for me, minus 1.5 got my money. Look, French way is always a gamble, but I'm happy to gamble on that minus 1.5.
All right, I know the French at home, it's always you can sort of bank on them giving 100%. Not always on the road, but the way this group is situated, I've looked at it, and I think that Clermont will really have no choice but to come out here and give it your all. Let's go to Oracle. Oracle, anything, does the system of the betting stick throw up anything on this one?
No. So the other thing here, Brent, is we're not going to give a go on every single game. We're going to pick a couple of games. So in this particular case, we've picked 3 games for Friday night on the Challenge Cup. Now, I'm not 100% sure why. I'm not that I'm not 100% sure. This kind of system, I got to say, in the past, I've played around with this kind of thing, and I got to tell you, it works far better with lower leagues than it does with the main league. So, for me, as much as it has spat out a couple for the European, the main cup, I think the value lies in the Challenge Cup. And similarly with my personal betting on things like Varsity Cup and sevens, definitely sevens, and Sean, I know Sean Nicholas will agree with me here, as well as the under 20 World Cup and obviously Curry Cup, and even that first division Curry Cup if you can get your hands on it. The problem here is that the bookmakers don't spend a lot of time on this kind of thing. So if you've got something that gives you a little bit of an edge, you will make money on it because you're playing against someone who hasn't done the amount of homework that you have. So so the calls that I'm going to give out tonight, just 3 of them for Friday night's Challenge Cup games. European Cup, look, I've watched a little bit on the TV. I must be honest, I haven't had a bet on European Cup in more than 2 seasons. I'm not going to start now. I'll leave it up to the Conductor. He clearly seems like he knows what he's doing. In fact, I'm going to start following him soon. So, he did very well. And I was just going to say one other thing. Don't write yourself off too short, Conductor, telling us that this is a hard week. My son's writing exams at the moment. He's battling. Well, I've told him that if he wants to get anywhere in the world, he's got to do science and maths. So he goes into his first science exam. He comes home, he goes, I failed. Tells us how he failed. He wasn't prepared, didn't study properly and whatever. Second science exam, he reckons it was easy. Well, guess what? He did far better in the first one he thought he failed than he did in the second one that thought it was easy. So, weeks when it looks like it's hard, have another look. It may not look as hard as it feels. That's all I got to say to people. Also, don't get too involved in games that you know nothing about. I know that a lot of these games aren't on TV. Rather stick to one or two. You've got a whole lot here. I think it's 20 games in total across the 2 tournaments. No need to get involved in 20 games. And I can tell you, and I'm sure these 2 guys will agree with me, if there were 20 Super Rugby games every weekend, we'd probably only be getting involved in 3 or 4, maybe 5, possibly 6, but we wouldn't be getting involved in all 20 of them. You spread your money too thin, and the 1 or 2 games that you do like, you end up doing not doing so well. And the games that you didn't like, you put a few rand on, and you probably do well on them. So, just pick out a couple of games here and get involved in those. Don't get involved in every game. It's crazy.
Yeah, agree with you there, Oracle. So, Oracle, obviously, as we go along, when we chat about a game, and we'll sort of just let Brendon run through them. Just put your hand up if you've got anything to add, or if anything comes up, and we'll chat about the Challenge Cup then at the end. So let's move on to the second game there, Brendon. And this is the game I've got listed next is 3 o'clock on Saturday, South African time. Benetton Treviso. They're at home to the Northampton Saints. Now, I've already seen a couple of posters on the live chat say they like the Saints here minus a 3.5, and that is the handicap. Northampton Saints on the road minus 3.5. I'm not too sure what the early betting was, but give us an indication of your thoughts here.
Yeah, Brent, that betting's moved a little bit. I think it was about minus 4.5, minus 5.5 to the Saints. It's narrowed a little bit. I'm not sure why. I also saw the guys saying, I'm also not sure why it's narrowed. Look, I'll be quite honest. I've taken a small bet on Benetton plus 5.5. I think that my bet was. Benetton are very plucky at home. They somehow, away from home, they're not as good, but they've improved vastly in the last 2 seasons. If I've gone through the results they've achieved at home, they've run some very, very big names in Europe close. And I'm saying about 2 or 3 points. That's why I'm going plus 5.5 there. Look, I've got a lot of respect for Northampton. I think Chris Boyd is not a bad coach. They've got some very good players. That Naivoro from the Waratahs is an absolute monster unit on the wings. I think he's 125 kgs plus. Dan Bigg is a really good. I like him as a fly half. Kobus Reinach is probably back from the box. I think he even played last week. So, yeah, it's another tough game. Like I said, what I've done personally, I've taken Smalls, Benetton. I like them to cover that handicap there. It's going to be a tough game in Treviso. Yeah, it's the Benetton coach is also a Kiwi, so he's not a dummy. I reckon they should come out firing here. So I've got them to cover there. It's not a game I'm going to get hugely involved in, to be honest. To me, it can go either way. But once again, I wouldn't oppose Northampton to see them winning by 10 to 15 points. But my call is Benetton to basically lead the game, and maybe a sort of a late charge by Northampton to probably win it by 1 or 2.
Right, so no real firm interest in that game. Let's move on then to the next game, and that's Saracens up against Ospreys. So I'm on Sunbet's website as we speak, and I see a Conductor. We've got Saracens minus 23.5. Now, Saracens fairly well beaten by Racing last week, and of course, I don't know if they've named the teams yet, but all the talk about the fact that they're going to be focusing on the Premiership, and that begs the question, can they put away a team by 24 points on the weekend?
So, Brent, it's another one. I've taken Smalls Saracens minus. I took minus 21.5. It's obviously moved since I took. I don't rate this Osprey side by any yard. I actually feel that Saracens now, after they've admitted they've accepted what's going to happen, they're going to start sort of building towards next week against Bath. They've got a Premiership game against Bath. I've got a sneaky suspicion they'll bring back 1 or 2 big guys to start getting their legs going, etc. And this Osprey side is horrendous. They lost to the Kings. I don't even know what the margin was last week that they lost to Munster, but I think I like the Saracens at home. They're a proud rugby club. I think they might bring back 1 or 2 guys. I've actually got a good feeling that they might win this quite easily. They'll cover the handicap. And to Ospreys, my question is for the Ospreys, what is their motivation to win at Saracens? I don't think they're going to try and compete in the Champions Cup. They're sitting pretty much in the bottom of their section of the Pro 14. So what is the motivation to go away and try and beat Saracens I think Saracens are going to be smarting off that rustling loss, bring back 1 or 2 guys, and I think that even Damian Willemse might score 1 or 2 tries. Maybe a Damian Willemse, if he's fit, first try scorer there is not a bad bet.
Right. So also a bet. I can hear that although you fancy the Saracens, they're not too confident as you suggested up front. And as Gavin said, though, sometimes the confidence comes early in the week. Sometimes it comes 5 minutes before kickoff. And you suddenly get that inspiration and go, right, that's the way I'm going to go. Let's move on to Toulouse then against Connacht. Also a big handicap here on this game, Brendon. I don't know what movement there's been, but currently Toulouse minus 19.5 at home against Connacht.
Brent, very little movement there. I think it's pretty much stayed put the entire weekend. This is the 3rd game in a row. I won't go big on this either. I'll go small Toulouse minus because I love Toulouse and the way they play rugby, and and that just showed. I mean, that just shows if you watch the previous games when they're at home. If you look at the way Clermont played against Harlequins, when the French teams get on top, they love swinging the ball. So that's why I'll back a little to lose minus. I think it's minus 20 at the moment. I like the way they played. I actually think Colby might be back this weekend. I saw he was in Paris with Sia Khaleesi a couple of days ago for photos. So I'm pretty sure Toulouse would have recalled him now. And it's a full strength Toulouse side. Look, Connacht's not a bad side, but I don't know if they'll be able to keep pace. But to be quite honest with you, Brent, once again, to me, small bet here. I would not call either. I see a lot of guys who got in Connacht on the plus, and the price is probably the right move. Connacht's not a bad side. They actually play good rugby, good defensive rugby, but I wouldn't back either side with much confidence here.
Excellent. Well, I see Oracle putting his hand up, which means he's got an opinion on this one. Just quickly to shout out, how's it to Shane? I know he's a big Oracle fan, so no doubt happy to see Oracle going to be contributing. And Shane, if you missed the start of the show, Oracle's main discussion point is going to come when we talk about the Challenge Cup. But Oracle, come in on this game, please.
Yeah, Brent. What's caught my eye this week, and again, it's just from a mathematical point of view. This Saracens handicap of 23 and this Toulouse one of 21 tells me that this is a lot tighter than people think. And I just looked at some previous results on this particular fixture, Toulouse and Connacht, and this Connacht team doesn't get smashed against this French side. And we're looking back a few years here, but these have been pretty tight. They've lost by 9, they've lost by 3, they've lost by 2, and there was a game in 2012 where they got beaten by 21. So I'd be very scared to take a big minus here on this French side. That's all. Sometimes there is something in these numbers, and I know it's got nothing to do with this week's team and this week's weather and all of that stuff, but geez, I'd be very scared to take minus 20s about these teams in this tournament, considering that they're no one's really smashing anybody else. Bar this, what's the team we were talking about a few minutes ago? Ospreys. Yeah, look, I'd probably stay away from the Ospreys plus, but the Connacht one's got my attention. I haven't had a bet yet, and if I am going to have a bet, so this is one that I would look at. It does seem a bit too high.
Excellent. Well, before we bring you back, Oracle, I'm going to let you ponder that comment from Shane. I created Oracle. So think about that while we're talking to Brendon on the next game there. And let's bring Brendon in now. And we've got the Exeter Chiefs now against the Glasgow Warriors. The Chiefs here firm favourites at home, minus 11.5 points against Glasgow. I think have just appointed their new coach. Obviously, Rennie's still in the job, though.
Yeah, luckily, Brent, Rennie's still in the job until the end of the season.
End of July. Well, he's probably till the end of the season. I think he only takes up the Aussie post in July next year or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's still there for a while. And I believe the guy they replace him with is not all that well rated, etc. So this may be the last sort of couple of months we ever bet on Glasgow for a while until we see what this guy does. He's apparently the forwards coach for Scotland. And the guys are saying, what have the Scotland forwards ever done? So we'll see what happens. But look, I think Dave Rennie's a big loss. My concern is what sort of psychological effect this will have on the Glasgow side this weekend. I don't think it'll be too big. There'll still be confidence. This is the first game. Besides for the Ulster game, this is the next game I'm going to get involved in, and I have got involved in. I've actually gone Glasgow plus 10.5. It's actually lengthened to plus 11.5. I like Glasgow here. Exeter, to me, are not a team that puts other guys away bad, heavily. They will never score. They won't put guys 40, 45 away, etc. I've seen the history. They haven't beaten Glasgow by this margin in the history. So I'm quite happy on the plus 10.5. Glasgow have got a good side. I don't think they've got any injuries to speak of. I was watching their press conference. I think all their guys are pretty much fit. Look, Exeter a good side, eh? They've got some very, very strong English players. But the last time I watched Exeter Glasgow, I saw Glasgow. It's actually putting up a good fight. So I very much rate this plus 10.5. It's one of the bigger bets this weekend. I'm quite confident on.
Excellent. So you like the plus there, Gavin, coming in on that one?
Yeah, I'm going to corroborate what the conductors just said. Look, in the last 4 meetings in this particular tournament, did he just drop a bottle or a case, or what was that very loud noise we just said?
Let's hope he returns.
Going to corroborate what he said. Exeter have beaten this team once in four goes, and they won by 9. Another thing that's come to my attention in the last couple of weeks now is with this deduction of Saracens of 35 points or whatever the number is, Exeter effectively are now favourites to win the Premier League. Now, as we all know, Exeter's not a team that's shot the lights out in the European Cup, and I've got to say this is a specific kind of a moment where they're probably looking at this game or this tournament for that matter and saying, we'll play the game, but we've got a chance at winning the Premier League here. We're going to have a go at that. So, plus 11.5, again, I hadn't had a bet. I hadn't looked too much. I heard him. I had another look. This is another game I'm definitely interested in. This plus looks way too big here against a team that really doesn't need to be in this tournament. They've got other issues at home, and they'll probably have a full go at that English Premiership. So, yeah, this plus definitely has my attention.
Well, and it's interesting that both of you going for the plus. So I'm sure the guys watching the show live or watching the show certainly over the next day or two will be taking a careful note of that one. Let's move on to the next game, and it features French team Lyon, and that's up against Leinster. And Leinster are the favourites here around the 5 to 10 mark, and about minus 3.5 points Leinster. I haven't looked around, but just on Sunbet's site there, we've got plus 3.5 at a shade over 9 to 10, and a shade over 8 to 10, we've got the minus 3.5 Leinster. What do you think of this one, Conductor?
Brent, I'm very much in the Leinster camp here. I actually took minus 4.5. I don't know why I keep taking bets early in the week, and they're both shortened. I feel like a bit of a dolly. So I'm very much in the Leinster camp. I don't think. Listen to what Brady 82 on the group has said. I don't think Lyon are actually taking this Champions Cup too seriously. I think the main focus is top 14. Look, they have got a big pack, and they've got some deadly runners. They've got, I think, Tuasova. They've got some very, very good players in their side. But I still fancy Leinster. Leinster are just such a good, like I said, they're such a good defensive side. I really, really trust them to get there and grind out the results. Minus 3.5, minus 4.5 is actually a bit of a gift. I don't think Lyon are going to try and smoke them at home, even though it is a home French game. I actually back the the Irish there to do well. It's a strong Irish side. Minus 3.5, minus 4.5 is to me is actually a very, very attractive bet. I expect to look. Obviously, as we say, we don't know who's going to be announcing the team tomorrow, but I expect quite a strong Leinster side. I don't know who they're playing next week in the Pro 14, but if I can recall, it's not a very strong side. So they may choose to give full guns for this one and maybe rest guys against the following game. Leinster, they're already sitting very pretty in the Pro 14.
Excellent. Well, just to touch on the good for the game, forum again, we do have guys like Brady who actually live in France that come on and put there, and he's watched quite a bit of Lyon. I haven't read his comments yet this week, but interesting to see. I know there's normally a bit of a disagreement on this sort of game, but very, very strong there on Leinster. Oracle, anything from you on this one?
Yeah, you don't read his comments. You didn't watch my videos. You didn't do this.
Sure.
What are you doing? Are you working all week?
I'm working for a living. What can I say? I'm also taking it. I
I
must
got
say,
nothing on
Gavin,
this game.
but I'm also taking it a little bit easy after the World Cup. I've only had 3 bets the weekend after the World Cup. Unfortunately, I had a good one. Last week, I missed the ACCA that we put in the Good for the Game newsletter. We had a 15-1 accumulator. Unfortunately, Bath let us down there at home to Ulster. They narrowly lost that game. And then, typical, I ended up getting involved in Sunday in running on a game that I never really had much of a fancy on and ended up losing a bit there. But certainly am taking it easier. But, the more these boys like the Conductor talk about the Northern Hemisphere, and especially when they're strong on a bet, it's very hard for guys like you and me who maybe decided to sit it out for a while. It's hard to stay on the touchline, isn't it? I mean, you want to just climb up and get involved.
Yeah, exactly. And you can be an expert at one aspect of rugby, or when I say one aspect, I mean one particular division, and maybe even very good at another. But it's very difficult to be an expert in 5 or 6 tournaments. It really is. Again, I've been in this industry a long time. It's hell of a hard, and I've even seen the best of the best punters. They do very well in one tournament and they give back all their money on another, or 50% of their money on another. And it's just so dangerous to fall into. And that's, again, it comes down to money management and discipline. I keep saying that, I keep wrapping it over and mentioning it all the time. But the reality is it's true. If you stick to what you know and what you're good at, by all means, have a go at a tournament. If you start making money and you're doing well, I mean, we can see the Conductor clearly knows what he's talking about here. There's no ways I would be pushing my chips into the middle of the table, going up against the Conductor and Northern Hemisphere rugby. I will take all my money. I'm just not going to give him the chance, and that's just it. I will have a few nibbles, but let me tell you, when it comes to this kind of rugby, a maximum of about half a unit is all it's going to be for me. Bit of fun, and if I lose, I lose, and if I don't, then I'll buy a couple of beers or whatever it is. But I wouldn't get heavily involved in something I don't know too much about until I educate myself. So there's a lot of time. Every year these things come up. You got a bit more time, like you said. If you've got some time, you can put a bit of effort into it. I mean, we can clearly see that. I keep using the word clearly, but it's obvious that the Conductors put the effort in. I haven't. Whatever I say on the show in this particular case is take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not putting a lot of money on it. Simple as that. So, yeah, that's it.
Talking of taking with a pinch of salt, Shane, they're saying that I'm a professional poker player. So just some feedback on my poker. Sponsored by GG Gaming last week. I was in one of the WBT events. I was going along well. I played for about 8 hours, disciplined poker. I got myself into the top 5 or 6 of chip stacks. A first prize of 360,000, 180 players in the pool. And 3 hands later, I was out. Absolutely fell apart. I just didn't have the temperament for it. Very, very disappointed. I must say, it's one thing going out in poker to a bad beat or even a bad play in a way, but just I couldn't believe how I lost my head in that. So thanks, Shane, for bringing that one up. But let's move on. I'm playing a poker tournament next week. It's my poker school's year-end tournament, so looking forward to that one as well. But Conductor, let's go on to you. It's Quins up against Bath, and the Harlequins here are minus 4.5 favourites.
Brent, this is one of my... when I looked at the odds initially, I actually couldn't understand why the Quins were favourites. So what I've done is here, I've taken Bath on the board and Bath plus 4.5. And I also took a bit of Bath 5.5. To me, Bath a massive value at both 5.5 or 4.5 and on the board. Look at the history between the two teams. It's always close. It is at the Stoop in just outside London. It's going to be a tight game. I think I very much rate this Bath side. I don't understand why it's so heavily weighted in favour of Harlequins. They got absolutely hammered against Clermont last week. So I'm not understanding where the bookies are pricing this up. Look, if the Harlequins are going to win, they're going to win by 1 or 2. I saw Joe Marler talking about horses riding riding in the river, and I don't know what he was talking about, but he was sort of talking about the Harlequins putting in a bigger effort. But I actually cannot. The thing is, what Gavin was saying was interesting. But for this tournament, what's so nice is that you can try and sort of catch teams when they are sort of not competing, if that makes sense. So Harlequins are not doing well in English Premiership. They could possibly get relegated. So I can actually see them rather concentrating on the Premiership rather than the Champions Cup, which means nothing. So this game might be a game of who wants to lose it less, if that makes sense. That either team's not really super involved, but I actually expect Bath. You had a losing bonus point away to Ulster. They were super unlucky to lose to Ulster last week. They should have scored a last-minute try, and they didn't. They got a losing bonus point. I expect them to play better this week. And actually, the way I look at their team, and I see they brought in new management, etc., I actually quite like who they've brought in. I like their team. I like their backline. I expect a far better response from Bath this weekend. So +4.5 to me is one of my better bets this weekend.
Great. Well, I'm going to bring Oracle in there and see if he's got anything to say on this game. Oracle, he's talking about management and discipline as massive in punting.
Absolutely. I was just looking at Chris's comment about having a decent World Cup but losing on the final. And look, at the end of the day, I was obviously on the opposite of that. And I'd had a bad World Cup until then. But, when it comes to money management and discipline, I showed it. I didn't get involved in that last week. If I was a crazy psycho punter, I would have probably just climbed into South Africa, taken more of Andre Pollard. But the reality is I had my bets early and I'd looked at what I stood to lose had England won the tournament. And it was just one of those tournaments. Had I been up before that final, probably would have played a little bit more, pressed, got a little bit more in. But, you've got to look at, there's a funny word called stop loss. And Brent, I know you know what it means. And a lot of people don't understand and they all think it's got something to do with spread betting. But the reality is it's got everything to do with punting. You've got to say to yourself, I'm down, whatever the number is, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, whatever your number is. And you say, once I get to that sort of line, I'm stopping. I'm going to ride with what I've got. I'm not going to take any more. And, it's just so important. I can't stress it enough. And that's I'm going to say the only reason. I've obviously got a reasonable talent for picking winners in rugby, but I've got to tell you, I've got a better talent when it comes to discipline and money management. I'm not much of a good budgeter when it comes to the family budget. We often run out of things like toilet rolls. We don't have money for petrol or whatever it is. But when it comes to punting, I certainly have a decent discipline. I know what I'm doing, and that's why I haven't had a losing year in quite a number of years. And I don't get involved in all sorts of stuff. Sure, I'll have the odd cricket bet and soccer bet and whatever. But the reality is money management and discipline are massive, massive, massive. So if you are currently showing a bit of a loss this year, or you have been showing a loss over the last couple of years, start to look at where that's coming from. Things like chasing. Chasing is another big word in punting. You have a big loss, you try and make that money back. Don't do it. Keep your unit. Whatever your unit is, you can increase it 10, maybe 25%, but don't go do stupid things like doubling up and whatever. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so sort of thing I do at a poker table, that's for sure. Conductor, let's go on to the next game here. We got Munster -5.5 against Racing. I didn't watch Munster last week. I know they were your best bet and they arrived nicely, so delivering for the newsletter as well there. But I was quite impressed with Racing as well. I know against a depleted Saracens team, but they look like they could be set for a deep run in this tournament.
Yeah, Brent. Like I said to you last week, look, I'll be honest, I've never been a Racing fan. Even after that, when I won't be a Racing fan either. They've got some good players. They've got Finn Russell, Virmi Vakatawa, Brice Sulan. They've got some really good players in their side. But I won't back them away this weekend. I've gone medium Munster -5.5. I like the Irish to win at Thomond Park. The Irish at Thomond Park. That let's move away from Ulster and Leinster at home are also very good. But Thomond Park for Munster is it's a very proud fortress for them. They very rarely give anything away there. Their tackles are 50 to 70% harder at Thomond Park. It's going to be a very, very tough initiation or a tough game for Racing there. So I've definitely liking that -4.5, -5.5. Yes, that's my bet. I'm going medium there, not massive, medium on that bet.
Medium on Munster there, -4.5, -5.5. Chris just making the point, the indoor arena at Racing, and that was last week, makes for some strange viewing. I tend to agree with you, Chris. It was quite interesting watching the game. It felt like you were almost in a disco at times watching that one. So that was quite interesting. And Gavin, I saw you put your hand up there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've watched a lot of this Pro 14, and I've got to say this Munster is a hell of a hard team to beat at home. I'm looking at the handicap here, -4, -5. It's probably about well set for this kind of a fixture. Racing, not a bad team. But this is the kind of game that if you are having an accumulator, ACCA as you call them, or multiple as I call them, you want to stick Munster to win the game into that, because at 0.44, 0.5, it's not worth having a go on the head. The minus is a bit tricky. It seems to be well set, but it certainly boosts your multiple or your accumulator. And I just can't see Racing winning the game. It can be a close game, but it's the kind of game that if Munster do scrape it, it'll be by 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5, and you don't win the bet. So as much as the minus does look a little tasty, this particular game I'd stay out. But if I am going to have a multiple, I'll probably put Munster to win on the board in the multiple. I wouldn't be backing Racing. There's no value in them to win this game.
Excellent. Well, welcome to Southpaw ZA. Southpaw, of course, one of our stalwarts on the Good for the Game forum. And I did see his forum post. I read it, Gavin, early in the week. It was short and sweet. He did go on Bath on the plus. He reckons the bookies have got this wrong. And so it's thinking along similar lines to you there, Conductor, on this one. So nice to get this one rubber stamped by Southpaw. And Southpaw, we certainly hope you're going to come up with some Summer Cup horse racing tips next weekend on the Good for the Game forum. And if you like anything at this early stage, feel free to put it up in the comments. Let's move on, though, Conductor, to Sale up against La Rochelle. And I see Sale, the home side here, minus 11.5. And we had a comment in the live chat, Andrew Litke, saying not normally one to get on odds lower than 5 to 6. But Sale Sharks, half-time, full-time, at just under 11 to 20 is a bet for him. He reckons it's absolutely going to smoke in. And he, of course, is based offshore and betting with William Hill. What are your thoughts on this one, Conductor?
Yeah, Brent, before we get there, I just want to thank Southpaw for the tip for the, I think, Summer Cup. I've definitely put a bit of money on Queen's. I think it's Queen Supreme. I can't remember.
Okay.
The Mark de Kock stable. So that'll definitely see my money on Saturday. So I'm hoping for race 7. I can't remember which horse it is. I'll put a bit of money on that. So thanks Southpaw for that. He was quite confident. He said no other horse had a chance there. So that's a great little tip there. But Sale. Yeah, I'm quite happy to take Sale minus 11. I see Faf will be back this weekend, and I think Faf makes a world of difference to that side with a quick service off the base of the ruck. They'll start kicking again like they should have last year. I think La Rochelle, after that drubbing against Exeter, I'm not sure how seriously they're taking this competition. And in England, I don't actually fancy them to do much. So I'm actually very happy to take it won't be a big bet for me. It'll be another medium for me. Minus 11.5 to Sale there. It should be all Sale, full guns there. And I wouldn't be surprised if La Rochelle maybe actually rest 1 or 2 guys in that fixture. So actually getting on the minus at the moment might actually be good value.
Right, we could see some movement on that one. Let's move then to the final game of the weekend. For the Champions Cup, we'll still talk about the Challenge Cup, of course. Montpellier up against Gloucester. And here, Brendon, we've got Montpellier minus 8.5 points.
Yeah, Brent, can you see what shirts I'm wearing?
You've got your Montpellier top on, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
There's only one team that's winning there. That's Montpellier. No, actually, I think Gloucester have actually been so underwhelming the last couple of weeks. They really, I think if it wasn't for those 2 Joe Simpson tries against Toulouse, they wouldn't have been in that game against Toulouse, even at home. So, and I actually quite like the Montpellier side at home. Serpentine is playing some incredible rugby. I think Andre Pollard has just arrived. He won't be playing this weekend, I'm sure, but he's coming to bolster the ranks. I think Cruden will still be playing fly half. It seems like they're getting things right there. I actually expect Gloucester to cover that handicap quite easily. I'm big in the Montpellier camp.
You had me worried for a second there.
sorry. I meant to say there. I like the Montpellier to cover that handicap there quite comfortably. Look, they did very well in the Challenge Cup. Not to say that sort of transfers to the Champions Cup. For some other reason, I said it 1 or 2 weeks ago, Gloucester just not shone. It's something that's not lacquer there. Actually, they lost to a second string Saracen side at home. They lost a very weak Leicester side away. I'm hoping for a big Montpellier win for my French South Africans there.
Excellent. Well, that brings us to the end of the games there. So, Oracle, before we move on to the Challenge Cup fixtures, anything else to add from your side on the Champions Cup weekend?
Yeah,
No, Brent.
the third of the games here, or the third game, should I say, is I have to agree with Conductor here. This Montpellier one definitely looks like a good value. -7 seems way too low. This one should be priced up at -20. It looks like to me. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but it does have a feel to it. So it's going to be it'll be the third game that I do get involved in this weekend. Again, not a lot of money, just a bit of fun and something to watch.
Excellent. The Southpaw just confirming his fancy there. Queen Supreme, that's next week in the Summers Cup. And Chris Sturdy coming in and confirming what we all know as well. And that is that Southpaw's record in the feature races is unsurpassed. He really has come up with some belters over the years. Conductor, maybe just your best bet on the Champions Cup then, before we move on to the Challenge Cup. I know there were 2 or 3. I know you're not as strong as last week, but there were 2 or 3. You were strong on Montpellier there.
I mean, I said, Brent, I thought about it. It's not, look, I don't want to say best bet because I think best bet sort of indicates I'm massively confident on it. I'd say a good bet. Good bet is Bath +1.5, and I like Leinster -3.5. Those are my 2 good bets. I'm nowhere near as confident as I was last week in terms of Munster and Clermont. To be honest, I think this weekend's gonna be a bit tougher. I expect some reversals. That's why I'm not going massive into stuff. You don't want to go and win such a good weekend and then sort of try and pile the same amount of money into the same weekend and then be crying when you sort of come level. But I'd say Leinster -3.5, -4.5. I like that, and Bath +1.5. I really like that. I think that's actually, and I agree with Southpaw. And I sort of said it earlier in the week. I actually think the bookies have got that a bit wrong in terms of the pricing up. Look, I may lose, but I still think that there's massive value there. I think the value bet is Bath.
Excellent. Yeah, no, sometimes spotting the value is not enough, but if you spot the value more often than not, you'll win in the long run. And I think that's what we all as punters strive to do. If you're getting bets that are moving and the handicap is moving before you play it, you won't win every time, but you'll win more than you lose. And I think that's what we're looking for as punters. Oracle, let's move on to you, though, for the Challenge Cup. I'm not going to run through each match, but you take us through perhaps your fancies on that, and then we'll get Brendon's comments as well.
Okay, so again, it comes down to this system that we're going to call him the betting stick. I think he's already been announced as that. It's not me, so don't get any of those funny ideas and tell me I'm masquerading. I promise you, if it was me, I'd be all over the show telling you it was me. It's not me. I'm a bit of a stand-in. I have contributed a little bit. As I said, my contribution is probably between 10 and 20%. It's very low. The rest of the work is definitely not being done by me. It is somebody else. Wants to remain anonymous, and that's great. We'll just call him Betting Stick going on, the name coming from Sean. Right, so the first game is this Enze. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's a Russian team. They're up against the Dragons from Wales. The handicap here is the away team's got 20. And I'm just looking at some of these results over here. And I remember this particular game. They played against this Dragons team. Sorry, I was just find this. They went over to Enze and won the game by
2 years ago.
Yeah,
they
won by 7. I remember
there was a game in Russia which had like an 80-point handicap or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know if that was the one, but I know it was definitely in the 40s or 50s. But anyway, This Dragons team won by 7, and I think they were losing. Sorry, I haven't clicked on it now. But they were losing for most of the game. So anyway, our algorithm system has spat out that minus is the play here. Now I'm going to chuckle because off the bat it looks like a load of rubbish. But I'm going to go with it. It's been good so far. So sorry, just to give the viewers a bit of a feedback here. We have actually been spitting these things out amongst each other for the last few weeks. And system seems to have a good understanding of how rugby works, although it's obviously a computer, it doesn't watch rugby, but we're going to go with it. It's got the Dragons at minus 20.5, and it's telling us to take the minus. So I'm going to have a little bet on that. I'm not going big yet, but obviously on the show over the next few weeks, we'll monitor it. So that's the first of the games. The second one is this listed as Power, French team. Sorry, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it. but it's telling us to take the plus, which is I think that's an Italian team, Calvisano. I think it's an Italian team. Not 100% sure. Handicap set at 26.5 there. I know, Conductor, you're welcome to laugh, but my pronunciation is shocking, and my knowledge of these teams is even worse. So don't worry, you have a full go. It's fine. So that your computer's telling us to take the plus 26.5 there. I'm going to have a little bit of go at that. Don't have too much to say about it. And the last game is the Edinburgh game. I've got, let me just check here. Sorry.
Edinburgh against
Edinburgh, Edinburgh minus 7.5. I'm just going to click on that one because that does feel a little interesting. I just want to see what they got here. Yeah.
These are two teams that I've heard of playing in that game.
Correct. So it's telling us to take minus 7.5 there. That one does feel right, actually. So out of the three, this is probably the one that looks the best. The other two are a little dodgy, but I'm going to play them anyway. And so far, we've had an almost 70% strike rate with this system. So feeling pretty confident and quite excited, actually. And for those of you who don't know the history behind this, comes from a book called, the guy that's come up with the system, obviously he'd been thinking about it a while. When he got into contact with me, I put him onto the Smart Money, the book written by that poker player, Michael Connick, which I told you earlier. And what these guys were doing was very interesting. They'd go and sit at a sports book in America, a casino, obviously, where all of them are. And I could sit with a bag of money, 20,000, 50,000, whatever dollars, and he'd wait for a handicap to move. So if his computer said, take minus 7.5, and the thing was sitting at 8.5, he didn't take a bet. He sat there for sometimes 48 hours, 72 hours, and he waited for the punters to push the number down or the bookmakers to move it. And as soon as it, in this case, moved to 7.5, he walked over to the counter, said he had to wait 30 minutes for the Oaks to count his money, but he got his bet on, and that was it. And the Oaks were hitting 65, 67%, and they were happy with that, or 62, whatever it was. And as he pointed out, as long as you're making 53% on 9 to 10, you're making money, and it's simple as that. So, they didn't put any emotion into it. They didn't have any feeling of which player was injured or whatever it was. The computer told them punt this, and they went for it, and it worked. So that's what we're trying to do here. And I'm just the spokesman, actually, not the creator, so I don't get any of those ideas. So, to recap, we got Edinburgh minus, we got this Calvisano plus, and we've got Edinburgh minus in Russia. So I'm very interested to watch that.
The Dragons, I think it's the Gwent Dragons in Russia.
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
Dragons in Russia. Sorry.
Okay, well, those are the three picks. Now, Conductor, I see you smiling there. Have you looked at these Challenge Cup games? What do you think of the system?
Brent, you can only lose money here. This is NSI is a Russian team, and they're still good there, but flipping hell, the Dragons aren't great either. So look, I'll be honest, I'm staying away from that one. I'll be staying away from Power versus Calvisano, the Italian team. It's also a dodgy one. Power probably needs to rest players for the top 14. The only European Cup Challenge Cup game I'll be getting involved in is Bristol versus Brive. Bristol are playing away. They're playing quite a good side. They're playing pretty much a full strength side against Brive. And I cannot for the life of me understand French rugby. It's like a woman. You think you know her, and you'll just never understand what it's about. I try to look at their team sheets. They don't have an A or a B team. They have an A, a B, a C, then a D, and then an E, and then they just sort of mix it around like absolute chaos theory. And they've got guys I haven't heard of playing against Bristol, but I rate 70. I think I took 70 to 10 Bristol. I see it's now dropped to 14 to 10. Bristol away. I quite like them. They're playing a good side, and they're very, very good. I quite rate Bristol as a team. They seem well coached. Never rated Pat Lam as a coach, but he seems to be putting the guys together and doing something well there. So, and Brive also one of those teams that might be fighting for the top 14 survival this year when all the top guys bring their players back, whereas opposed to Bristol seem far more confident to be surviving the English Premiership. So I'm far more confident on Bristol. I took a 70-10. I thought that was good value, but I'm always cautious on the look challenge. The nice thing about Challenge Cup is there's a lot of room for swing, if that makes sense. They sort of, like Gavin says, not bookies don't always do the homework. It's like Currie Cup First Division. If you can catch it on the right move, you can make a lot of money because the guys aren't doing the homework into it. The sort of team selections are a little bit in the air, and also the motivation is also in the air. So if you catch a team right, you can actually win massively on a Challenge Cup. But as I said, my only involvement is Bristol, and I might be getting a little bit involved in Edinburgh, even though they're going against Sammy Randrandra from Bordeaux, who's such a destructive runner. But I like Edinburgh at home. They're quite a solid team. They pretty much got the balance of the Scottish team at home. Them and Glasgow Warriors.
Excellent. So I gather that you're strong on are you strong on the Champions Cup stuff this week? I know you're not strong, but
Brent's much strong on the Champions Cup. I've always sort of tried to sort of put through my betting is always bet on quality. I don't know if that makes sense, but always bet on quality. I always, if my bets are always on the sort of the better teams, I'm always far more confident it's a better game. I hate betting on, as Gav says, rubbish versus rubbish or dance of the desperates. And that's what I would always call it, because it's crap watching crap teams play crap rugby, and it's just see which team is going to be less crap on the day. So I prefer betting on better teams. That's why, hence, I like Glasgow in this sense. I think Bath is a good contender for this Premiership this weekend. Oh, sorry, for this season. And Leinster is the best team in Ireland. So I try to elevate my bets to better teams. They generally have less swings in their team structure. If that makes, sorry, if I can explain it. They're not like a Pakistan who will be, 250 for 3 and then, be 280 all out. So Leinster, if they're 17, 15 up, they should generally hold the game. They won't lose 30-17. So that's what I enjoy about your Premier teams, like Saracens, like Leinster, like Glasgow. They generally won't concede those two soft tries, and that's why I like betting on them on a cap or straight.
Yeah, I got to say, quality versus quality. I hear you there. I mean, a good mate of Gavin's and myself, Brendon O'Connell. I mean, we've talked betting over the years. We met in the early 90s, I think it was. And many a weekend we'd do our homework and we'd hit, say, 3 of our 4 best bets. And then come the last game of the weekend, we'd find some French top 14 rubbish between 2 unknown clubs. And we'd be desperate for action and end up getting involved in, more often than not, bet 3 times the amount that you had on the bets that you actually researched. And then you end up doing your money. And it's a terrible way to do your money. But it happened. I mean, I guess that's where Gavin's discipline and that comes in. And I'm also a fairly disciplined punter. But like, yeah, as disciplined as I am, every now and again, I am prone to chasing the game, if I can put it that way. So, yeah, going to be an interesting one. I like some of these Challenge Cup selections. And just an interesting discussion going on in the live chat, things like gambling movies and gambling books. And maybe we must do a little show one day. I mean, it doesn't have to be a big live show necessarily, but talk about some of the gambling books and movies that we've watched. Because coming into December, a few of us might have a bit more time on our hands, and it's always nice. And I can only read a book when I buy some glasses, I can tell you. I can't even read a menu or anything at the moment, so I do need to get some glasses. But Gav, any final comments for you from your side?
Yeah, so I was looking at, you're talking about December coming up. So I got this little work calendar on my desk, and it's obviously got the dates. And today was the 21st of November. And about a month ago, I wrote down next to each date how many days I had left. So after today, I've got 11 more days left of work before I'm on holiday for 3 weeks. And I'm really looking forward to it. So, yeah, I'm quite excited. I don't know how much punting I'm going to do over this holiday. I know I'm going to be involved in the sevens, a little bit of the South African cricket. And, yeah, pretty much, obviously, a little bit of this rugby this weekend. But my big punting will only start again at the end of January. So for me, this is a hiatus almost, not quite a hiatus, but a bit of a laid back. I've banked the money. It's just whatever's left in a bit of change to have some bets, but nothing serious. I'm not going to get any involved at all over the next couple of months. My best bets for this weekend, Brent, I got to say, Munster I'm going to take a multiple here, actually. That's how little I'm betting this weekend. I'm going to take Munster to win the game. I'm going to take Glasgow plus. So the double there comes to 17-10, just over 17 to 10. Well, guys like Shane in the UK, they call it 7-4. It's a nice number. You win 7 for your 4 stake. And then if you throw in those 3 betting stig punts for the Challenge Cup, it takes it up to closer to 20 to 1. So I'm going to have a bit of that. I'm going to have a double on my own, and I'm going to have a 5-way on the other. 2 small bets, and that's all I'm doing for the weekend.
Excellent. I must say, Gavin counting down the days till he goes on leave is interesting, because I believe all his colleagues are also ticking off the days till Gavin goes on leave.
They are indeed.
Conductor, just a quick question to you. Andrew asking, have you got any opinion on the London-Irish game?
Yeah, Brent, I saw that. I very much like London Irish there. I actually don't know what the odds are, but I'll take them. Let me just have a quick quiz.
I haven't been able to find it because I also saw he's posted. I've looked at some of the local books. We don't seem to have prices on that. We've only got Friday's games up, certainly at Sunbet and WSB at the moment. I don't know if anyone else got it priced up.
Brent, look, I don't know what the odds are. I actually imagine London Irish would be a bit short there, probably 3-10, 4-10, but I'll take London Irish there. Bayonne have been playing well in the top 14, but once again, I don't think they've got the squad to really mix it up with a lot of the guys. I think they'll probably be focusing more on the top 14, trying to sort of maintain their place there. I think, and that's sort of the mentality I've got with Breve as well. Those guys don't really have the squads and the bucks to sort of, well, that I think, maybe they've got some billionaire backing them. You never know these French guys, but maybe they're still billionaire. But I would take London Irish. They've been quite good to start off with, but their main focus would be survival in the Premiership. So that's also, I'm not going to be too involved with that. But it's interesting to say about Sunday games. I cry on Sunday night. Like you say, you've done so well the entire weekend. There's that 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock game, and you think, let me just get involved a little bit. Then you sort of lose the first half bet. You think, sure, I don't actually want to lose that. But by the time carte blanche music starts rolling, you're actually crying like a bloody toddler and thinking, why the stuff that I even pick up, turn on the TV, because I should have just gone home or not even got involved because it's stupid. But no, the funniest things is the worst days that cost me money is Friday mornings and Sunday afternoons. It's funny how it works. Saturdays I clean up. Though many a lunchtime meeting I've had at work are bloody. I can't take notes. I can't. The oaks telling you questions. I actually tend to piss off. And I thought, yes, how did that Friday morning Blues game lose or something like that? So it's always a costly one. But you guys are talking about betting movies. There's 2 very good betting movies that I definitely recommend. I'm not sure about books, but 2 betting movies is one is 2 for the Money with Matthew McConaughey and Al Pacino. Brilliant movie. Brilliant movie. And the other one is with Mark Wahlberg. He's addicted to gambling and he sort of loses everything. I think we can all associate ourselves with that. But no, it is. It's two good movies to watch. But I haven't got any books.
Gavin, you got anything for us there?
Yeah, I was just going to say that 2 for the Money show. Now that was very good, but the problem is it's a utopia kind of movie because that the system that they were using in that movie was that the Ike was tipping people, and they would go and take their bets with their bookmakers, and then they would report back and say, "Yeah, well, I won, so here's your share of the thing." The reality is, in the real world, you're getting a tip from somebody, and you're giving them a percentage of your wins. You're going to tell them, "Well, you put 1,000 rand on, but meanwhile you put 20,000 on." So it's a very difficult one. But I did like the movie. I enjoyed the whole thing, and as we know, that was 20 years ago. And today I'd be very, very interested to see how guys like that. There obviously are people out there that are tipping. And I remember when the 087s or the 088 numbers came out in South Africa, guys had all sorts of racing tipping numbers where people paid 20 rand a minute to hear their tips for the day, and they were the only ones winning out of it. So yeah. There are some good movies.
I think we should go to the 20 rand a minute. I'll never forget phoning one of those lines once, and they spoke like this. You got to the end of a minute and you didn't even get into the first race yet. But yeah, that will be a good one. So we'll definitely have a show or something, maybe in December or something, on some of the best reads and gambling movies. Guys, thanks. It's been great. I saw some Super Rugby betting coming out overseas. We won't chat about that now. I've looked locally. Haven't seen anything yet, but we're going to have plenty to talk about in the weeks to come. Oracle, great having you back on the show, and look forward to seeing how the betting stick goes this weekend.
I'm also looking forward to it, Brent. Don't worry. This is my first week of putting some money on it. I've watched it for a couple of weeks, and now I'm going to have a go.
Excellent. And the Conductor, thanks very much. I almost felt your confidence building as the show went. I wasn't sure if that was chatting with us or if it was as the gyms were flowing, so the confidence was flowing. But I got a feeling that you're going to get a bit more involved this weekend than what you were planning.
Yeah, Brett, probably. But like I said, when I looked at the fixtures, I wasn't all that confident. But like I said, when I get home tomorrow night, the confidence might be flowing with all the Jamisons that might be at the house. But look, as I said, I'll be quite honest. My bets are down, but I'm not super confident on this weekend. I say this, but I'll probably just sort of be a bit more conservative. But I'm hoping that Leinster delivers, and I'm hoping that Bath delivers. It'll make another nice weekend to sort of cap off the year and pay for my holiday.
Excellent. Look forward to it. I'm definitely going to be I'm a lot more getting involved than I was at the start of the show, I can tell you guys. Thanks to all the boys who joined in on the live chat. It was a really great show. And do go and share our show if you haven't. Share it on Twitter, share it on YouTube. Let's spread the word. We want to go big for Super Rugby next year, and let's hope the betting stig is absolutely flying into that one as well with some winners. Thanks, everyone. Go down below and subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and we'll catch you next week. GG Gaming should be back, and just quickly on that one, apologies that the show wasn't on this week. We'll catch you next week.